Long-term effects of psychedelics are common, both negative and positive. When it comes to shrooms and acid, there are no long-term physical effects as long as what you are taking is pure and real. This is more so an issue with acid, otherwise known as LSD, because much of what is sold on the street is often other research chemicals that are harmful or in some cases cause death. LSD is typically easier to find than mushrooms, more cost effective, and lasts longer. So of course, many people primarily use it over mushrooms. You could also buy a testing kit online, but it will only tell you that LSD is present. It won't tell you what other chemicals are also present. You can, however, argue it's not as likely, but some drug dealers have used a mixture of LSD and other chemicals in order to get more profit. They do this either by using a cheaper chemical or by using a addictive chemical to ensure their buyers keep coming back. I personally recommend mushrooms for this reason, but only to certain people at certain times in their life. The reason why is because the true danger in these psychedelics is what they are capable of psychologically. The following clips are only of people who've had something to say in regards to the long-term effects they have experienced. They do not represent everyone I've interviewed. However, so far, about half of the people I've interviewed have had something to say in regards to the long-term effects they've experienced. These are random people. Please don't make decisions based on what they say without your own due diligence. And also, take note that these substances affect everyone differently, especially those with pre-existing mental conditions. Do you feel like you've had any long-term effects from that trip?
Not really. I mean, it was only once. Like, it's not like I've done it multiple times to want to experience that again. I felt like I just wanted to see what it was like one time and then kind of scratch that off my bucket list.
Do you suffer from any mental illnesses genetically or situationally?
Interesting you mentioned that genetically. I mean, because anxiety, depression, know that for a fact. I'm 100% sure that I have inattentive ADHD. I've been aware of that since about 4 years old. I've only had a name to that since about 17. I do think that, I know from my mom's side, OCD runs in the family, but I don't think I actually struggle with that. I mean, little bits, but I don't think it's actually enough to kind of call it OCD. I notice it, but that's it. But other than that, no, I think that's it for me. I was scared I was bipolar at one point. Sometimes I still am, but I've kind of challenged it and questioned it enough where it's just like, I don't think it really is. I think that's just me having those repressed emotional problems, instead of suddenly becoming manic or whatever. Because I go through my ups and downs, but it's a battle every day no matter what, so I can't really just pick something and stick it to that. But I think for me, I think that's it, yeah. Anxiety, depression, bit of ADHD. Nice little cocktail.
Could you say your trips have had a long-term effects, long since they were over, or?
I've been trying to quit smoking for a while. I'm kind of on nicotine gums now, which is a lot better, but at the same time, I'm now hooked on nicotine gums instead. I did notice that after the first trip, for about, I think it was 3 days, I definitely noticed it. I was a lot more confident. Things that I'd gotten bored of or felt burnt out of, I could suddenly actually start getting back in touch with again. I was playing games I hadn't played for years because I just looked at them and think, well, I know everything about this, but I don't. It's just like fucking depression, burnout is just saying don't do it. I was a lot more confident at work. I had no nicotine cravings for 2 days afterwards, which was really weird, but also really welcomed. But I think after a couple of weeks afterwards, I kind of did settle back down into normalcy. But for that 3 days to that couple of weeks, I did feel just better in myself. My anxiety was lower. My depression was just not at the door for once. It was good. Really helpful.
How have your trips affected you long term, if at all?
I don't think they've really affected me that much, apart from just being more relaxed about the real world, you know? Because right now I don't really care if I die tomorrow or if I like die right now or something. You know, it's like, okay, I'll live on somehow. I just see the world a tiny bit differently, you know? Because I was like, there's things better than just the real life, like VR chat, and like go like be on a trip, you know. Oh shit! I hit my PC. I'm so sorry.
Your poor PC.
But I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, baby. Oh shit! I did. Hold on. Let me back up. Let me back up.
Okay, and how have your psychedelic trips affected you long term or short term? Like you said, you were experiencing anxiety. Was that while you were sober as well?
I get anxiety while I'm sober. I get anxiety all the time. I'm diagnosed with PTSD. As a child, I was very heavily abused, which is where that comes from, which is partially why psychedelics probably don't mix with me too well, because I've got a lot of stuff in my past that I still can't really deal with too well. It has opened me up, though. Before I did psychedelics, I just saw them as a purely negative experience, but after you try them, you kind of realize that, like, they aren't that bad. You can do them, and you're not an insane person. Like, you're not gonna turn into a glass of orange juice, you know? Like, they can give positive experiences, and people who do them aren't necessarily bad people.
Is there anything you would have done differently when deciding to use psychedelics in the past, knowing what you know now about them?
I think I probably just wouldn't have done them as much. I still try all of them, but, like, I got way too into a lot of it, and it really affected my work, like my college work especially, and I made a bunch of stupid decisions whilst I was on shrooms. So I think I just do them less.
Do you suffer from any mental illnesses genetically or situationally?
I wouldn't say I have any genetic, mental, but I do have, like, I'd say, like, I'd get anxious time to time, but I'm not, like, diagnosed with anything severe, nothing like that. Just mild anxiety.
Have your trips affected you at all, short term or long term?
Most definitely. Short term, I'm not too sure. Can't think of the top of my head, but long term, for sure. Like psilocybin mainly. It just made me very appreciative of a lot of things. Whenever you're just tripping, you just look at your surroundings and you're like, wow, like, I'm really in this bitch. Like, I really need to be grateful because this could end in any moment. And that feeling right there was, amplified with the mushrooms, and it made me, like, realize, like, practicing gratitude really is important. Also, pick your friends wisely, because, a lot of our parents, they told us when we were growing up, like, you are who your friends are, and you're like, yeah, whatever, mom. But it is true. Like, it really is true. Like, whatever you surround yourself with, you become. Like, that's how energy works. Like, it's transmutable. You become what the fuck you're around. Um, like, I don't know if you ever seen that example of, like, you put a rotten fruit next to a ripe fruit, like, it will become rotten if it's right next to it. It's the same way with us humans. Pick your friends wisely, and sometimes also you just, like, off of psilocybin, I realized, like, sometimes you just gotta not give a fuck at all, because when you're, like, one thing I've learned, obviously, being here is the only thing you can change is yourself, and if you think you can change anything else, you're crazy. So really just focus on you, and just everything else kind of plays out. So, like, don't give in to what people think. Don't down yourself because you couldn't change a certain scenario or outcome of life, because you literally can't do anything about it. Change is inevitable, but you can always change yourself. That's for sure. That's certain that you can always change.
Do you suffer from any mental illnesses genetically or situationally?
Yeah. I'm autistic. I got ADHD. I'm bipolar. Shit, I was hit by a car and I have fucking 3 hairline fractures in my vertebrae. They should be healed by now, but it still fucking hurts sometimes. So, Marijuana. It's a great drug.
How have your trips affected you short term or long term?
Short term, I mean, I've been the same guy before, same guy after. I just had a new experience to talk about. Long term, I think it opened me up to a lot more ideas about, how everything works and not to trust everything you're told because not everything you're told is right. I mean, that's not a great lesson, but it is a lesson that needs to be learned.
And have your trips affected you at all long term?
I think they've curved my decision making for sure. I don't think I'm very much interested in drugs like that, and I don't think I would try anything harder than that.
Have your trips affected you at all long term?
I'd say so, yeah. Like, I was jobless all last year. Like, I finished my traineeship at the start of last year, and then with COVID and stuff, like, I couldn't find a job. And so I always felt like after taking, like, when I was tripping, right, I did a lot last year. Like, I'd always come back and be like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, normally I just ignore it all and, like, kind of, like, just be like, yeah, I'll figure it out later, but it kind of made me go, like, shit, what am I gonna do with my life? What do I want to do? Like, I gotta do something. Like, I can't just be doing nothing. And so it kind of, like, I guess, helped me kickstart, like, figuring out what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, shit like that. Because, like, it makes you overthink those sort of things, but I needed to overthink it. Like, I needed to go, like, okay, what do I want career-wise? Like, do I want to go back to school, shit like that? And, like, I kind of, like, slowly figure it out, like, a bit after bit, and I'm good now. Like, I got a career now, I got a job, like, it's good.
Is there any way that you can say your trips have affected you in the long term?
Oh, I think they affected me in a lot of ways. I mean, in the long term, I feel like I'm more understanding of myself. I'm more accepting of my experiences. I'm more, I would say, less depressed. Definitely, it has affected my relationships with my friends in a positive way. I think it's really led me to kind of recognize, like, faults that I had that weren't really addressing, in terms of, like, how I was treating my friends and family and how I was kind of interacting with them. And this really led me to be a more empathic person and just really focus on, like, how I treat my relationships with others.
How have your trips affected you long term or short term?
Long term, I just feel like after you take psychedelics, you just see the whole world completely different. And even when you're sober, it's not like you're in the trip. It's not anything like that. But you just see the world as a completely different thing. Like, there's so much more. Can't really describe it unless, like, someone that's tripped would understand what you're saying. But you just see the whole world in a completely different way. And that's long term, because I always think about that to this day.
Is there anything that you would have done differently when deciding to use psychedelics in the past, knowing what you know about them now?
No, I feel like I did a pretty good job on doing it with people that I'm comfortable with. I feel like I did it right. I did my research on it.
Is there anything that you would have done differently when deciding to use psychedelics in the past, knowing what you know now about them?
Or I don't know. I think I might have tried to get better acid, like just more cleaner stuff maybe, or stuff that I knew where it was made and what was in it. But I mean, I was with my friends and everything, so it was all good.
Have your trips affected you at all, short term or long term?
Yeah, short term, the side effects kind of crave. Like, I crave acid. Like, I crave that euphoria. But it's nothing you can't overcome. You just kind of have to, like what I do is I chew gum when I crave it. So I'll, like, go to the park, go skate, go to work, anything to keep your mind off of doing acid. Long term, I've been doing it maybe for, like, regularly 2-3 months now. I haven't really had any long-term uh, effects. I think maybe some minor short-term memory loss, minor, very minor. But that could be attributed to other issues in my life that are pre-existing. But all around, no general issues apart from a minor craving.
Is there anything you would have done differently when deciding to use psychedelics in the past, knowing what you know now about them?
I would say pre-plan. So have snacks ready, have your music ready, have comfy clothes, have your place pre-planned, have your people pre-planned, and
Dude, I'm seeing his fucking videos.
just go into it with a chill vibe. Don't freak the fuck out, and if you do freak the fuck out, just tell yourself that you're on drugs and you're gonna be okay. That is the biggest thing, is having the mindset to tell yourself that you are high and that it will only, it'll end. It won't last like this forever.
Fuck yeah, 1000%.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mushrooms definitely. I only ever expect to do DMT once, and I'm kind of nervous about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and more research about it before doing it, because it was a little chaotic considering there was so much people there.
Probably at some point in the future.
Yes, definitely. I don't know if I'll make it a habit, but I know I will definitely be doing at least one more. Where I go from there is up to me.
Oh, hell yeah. As soon as I get the money, make that bread.
Make that bread.
Somehow. I've had more worse, bad trips than good ones. But I'm still determined to do it more.
Maybe on D&T once, but that is probably it.
Look, I always keep telling myself no, because literally after every trip, I'm always I'm so fucking tired. It's it's a Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and I still can't sleep. I'm like, let's try and not do this again, but I know I will, because the thing is, I was the first in my friend group to do it, and now all my friends do it. And it's always just a thing that comes up. They're like, oh hey, do you want some? And I'm like, oh fuck it, if we're all here, let's do it. It's not gonna be my choice, it's always gonna be someone offering me, feeling like I want to.
Yeah, once I get some more healthy, I just need to get some more money.
Will you ever trip again?
I'd probably do it again, but I'd do it in a more safe environment. It's been probably about 2 years since my last drug trip, so I'd be completely open with doing it again.
Yes.
I haven't done it in a while, but maybe one day. As long as it's clean stuff and, a bit more natural.